Like they're not like money on her desk.
I tried some.
Because it's all like the
Chairs. Like brush chair. Haven't bought any of those for a while because there's some.
But it's under the discussion. Yeah, we just got to like this fresh space that
So I usually buy strawberries, blueberries, and
that's the
raspberries.
prepared, like, those cases.
Two of those three are usually.
But the rainier chair.
Yeah. She has to.
Or this way, or like next to order.
Well, if you really like this,
And we'll be down a little rock.
the drinks were
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. This is work session for June 15, 2026, Bella Vista City Council. The first item is review of the minutes from May 26, 2026. Any comments on those? Okay. Next item is unfinished business, amending section 1643, active permit maximum of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to increase the maximum number of short-term rental permits from 600 to 687 And for other purposes, this is on second reading. I don't know if you guys have gotten feedback from people. I've gotten some, and it seems like a lot of people want to keep it at 600. I'd say more than 50%, certainly. But Larry?
Comments that I've had have been to keep it where it is.
Turn your mic on.
The comments of people who have contacted me or sent me emails are keep it where it is.
Anna?
A lot of the feedback I've seen has been pretty split. So there's definitely been folks that don't want an STR next door to them, but at the same time, you know, a bad neighbor is a bad neighbor, whether it's a long-term neighbor or a full-time, you know, homeowner next door. So to me, it's been a real mixed bag in terms of response. So I think it's still a lot to think about.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so as I said, that's on second reading. Next item is new business ordinance approving the final plat and accepting public rights of way and easement dedications therein, and staff request going to third and final on this. Taylor, did you want to talk us through this?
So essentially, it's just a lot split. Basically, a large parent tract has been split too many times. The max is 6 times without having to go through the final plat process. This has done, with the previous plat, this parent tract split into 5 lots. They now want, the new owner wants to now split one of those 5 lots into 2 lots. And so it'll be 6 lots total, which is the trigger for the final plat process. So essentially they're taking 1 lot that is already subdivided and they want to split that into 2. Per the code, this needs the final plat approval due to the amount of time it's already been split, which requires your approval in place of the planning commission approval, which is what's typical in our standard ordinance requirements. So no new roads are being made, no new utilities are required. There's already utilities in the area. There's already a road that's serving these 2 new lots, or would be 2 new lots. Well, 5 or 6 lots that's already there. So we're not accepting any new infrastructure. However, this plat would be accepting some new public easements for that lot, that new lot line that has the easements on both sides of it. So we are basically just accepting some new utility easements with this. And it requires your approval before we file with the county.
Did the planning commission approve this? Or?
Yep, unanimously they recommended approval, staff's recommending approval.
Accepting a final plat is something that cities do all the time, except this is one of those things, Bella Vista, I noticed that I had the former mayor's name on this because it's been more than 4 years since we've actually had a subdivision in town, which is remarkable considering it, but it's just the nature of our community. That's one place we're different, but it is quite a common thing to do, even though it's unique to you, is my point.
So in other cities happens all the time, is that what you're saying? Yeah. Larry?
I guess my question is, so this was one of a lot of a subdivision that was administratively approved, and someone bought it and wants to divide it into 2 lots, is that my understanding? Or?
Administratively approved by the planning commission, yes.
Yeah, it was appropriately approved by our approvals.
Correct.
But, so one of the lots was large, about 7 acres roughly in size, and someone bought it and wants to split it. What about the other 5 lots that were in that subdivision?
It's my understanding that they were all individually sold and bought. They're all owned by
So will
different
someone
owners.
come forward with a split like this?
We don't know
We
the
don't know.
answer to that, but one thing I do need to make sure that I point out, because we don't do this very often, is if the subdivision meets our requirements, you really have no discretion but to approve it. So, and I think that's what Taylor is saying. So they've met all the requirements. If they had not met the requirements, then we'd be talking about something else. But it's not just we don't feel like it. It's not. I mean, this is a formal action you need to take to approve it. usually there might be streets, there aren't streets here, but there are easements in order for the city to officially take it on. So, but if they've met the requirements, and that's ultimately what the council can determine, whether they've met those requirements, can't make up new requirements.
So as a subdivider, a landowner subdivider, what's the obligation of the developer in the event of these two lots? Have we issued any waivers or variances to this division from our code?
There were no variances, but there was a waiver of street improvement, street widening that the planning commission approved.
And what does that translate to?
Essentially, the portion that crosses their frontage, they got a waiver to not widen that small portion.
And so that was granted for the remainder of the subdivision that has frontage on that street.
It's only for the two lots in question, or the two proposed lots of the lots. It's not the entire subdivision. All these lots within the subdivision are individually owned. It's not the subdivider. Cooper sold these lots after they subdivided it.
So Cooper got approval for 5 lots, and they weren't required to do any improvements to the abutting street because it was compliant.
Because it was an incidental subdivision back then.
But it was compliant?
It was compliant. The previous code did not require less than five lots or less to improve the road.
So was there a trigger then to do road improvements?
Yes.
Of 6 lots or more?
Yep.
I would ask you respectively that you change the code that covers all plats.
She can't change the code, only the council can do that. Only the council can change the code.
I understand.
Well, through public
Has to go
hearing.
through planning commission first. So that we treat subdivision platting the same, whether it's a big one or a little one, whether it's administrative approved or whether it's big enough that warrants council approval, the treatment and improvements to that subdivision are consistent in our code. That's what I'm saying.
If you want to propose a resolution and direct staff to do that, is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I can direct staff to do that.
You would have to propose a resolution to council, and they would vote on it to direct staff to do a planning commission public hearing. That would be changing minor plats and final plats and preliminary plat processing.
So that we're consistent in how we handle platted subdivisions, whether it's administrative or council action that requires it to be implemented.
Isn't this part of the code change we just approved here about 6 months ago?
This is effective 12/1/2025, yes.
So yes, okay, so this is all your new code.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things we've been catching a lot of stuff that doesn't work well.
Well, but keep in mind, you're talking about other lots that were once a part of this. This is a subdivision of just what you got in front of you. It's not the other parts, the other pieces of
I
land.
appreciate this was one lot of that original 5-lot subdivision.
Exactly.
And so what I'm suggesting is that we should be consistent in requiring approvals on minor subdivisions, if you will, those that are administratively approved, the same that we would apply to a subdivision that requires formal approval by the council. So if there's improvements that are warranted for streets or utilities or drainage or whatever the things might be, that they're equitably treated, not less treated.
It sounds like he's wanting a resolution to require.
I know,
That, we can't do it here, because those are
I
existing.
appreciate that.
But to require infrastructure improvement.
to any change to the planning and development is going to have to, you're going to, and we talked about this, Mr. Hart had an issue, you could adopt a resolution to request to require the planning commission to conduct a public hearing and to review a proposed modification. You can do that. I'm not sure I quite understand the nature of the problem. Taylor, aren't we? It's just a matter, what determines whether it's administratively approved or has to go to the council?
It's the amount of lots that's been subdivided.
The rules are the same?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
But the requirements for improvements are not consistent.
It's just unfortunately, this one lot owner bought one that was already subdivided too many times, and so that's what's triggered them to come here.
I understand.
Yeah.
I realize where we're at. But I'm saying that I feel that that's inequitable to our development process in Bella Vista. We're missing an opportunity to have infrastructure improved and upgraded to our code standards, whether it's a large subdivision or a small subdivision. And I think we should be consistent in that handling.
I get what you're saying.
That's my opinion. So, thank you.
Is it only gonna come up when we split things 6 times? 'Cause that's,
He's wanting to propose a resolution, it sounds like, to require for even just to split lots. He's saying incidentals or minor plats should be treated the same as majors,
In terms of requiring infrastructure adjustments.
which would be that would be a full plat, that wouldn't be a minor anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I agree.
We can have people play games with us otherwise.
but we're required to approve this one.
Yes.
All right.
They're required.
This plat has been presented to you. The staff is telling you it complies with the existing rules. If it complies with the existing rules, to deny it would be to act arbitrarily and capriciously, because you told the world, this is what you got to do to subdivide. They've done it, and then if you came back and said, well, no, we don't like it, that's going to get us sued, that's unconstitutional. So when I say, yes, you could vote yes or no, but if you do vote this down, you're going to have a major problem and an unconstitutional action, I fear.
Mr. Mayor,
Greg?
this is essentially just lot split, right?
It's just a lot split,
Basically, yes.
correct?
I mean,
It's one of the lots of the 5
It's a
lot
lot.
subdivision that's being
I
purchased
understand
and
that.
then split again.
it's not
We could
major.
have the other 4 lots in this subdivision that occur the same way.
How often do we do lot splits? Quite often, right?
No, lot splits, actually, any subdivision in Bella Vista is fairly limited. It's not nearly as common as it is.
I mean,
in
it's
other
not
cities.
common, but it,
Lot splits are administratively approved without.
We have plot splits go through planning commission all the time, correct?
okay,
That's a different story.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next one, item D is an ordinance requiring orientation and continuing education for elected officials of the city of Bella Vista, Arkansas, establishing minimum training requirements, providing for reporting of compliance and for other purposes. And this is Wendy.
Yeah, thank you, John. So this would basically, if passed, would require newly elected officials to go through an 8-hour orientation. Whenever possible, things happen, obviously we understand that. They're not going to be unelected, dethroned. But giving them an orientation opportunity to actually understand how the city works, how the functions work in our community, and going forward. For elected officials who are returning, it would be a 6-hour minimum across the year. It's 30 minutes a month. 1 hour being required for FOIA, just recertification or re-knowledge. The other ones could include municipal law, ethics and conflicts of interest, public finance, economic development, planning and zoning, public safety, infrastructure, personnel management, risk management, leadership and governance, and other subjects that apply to cities. You can do these things through attending the league conferences. That would knock out your entire hours that you need for a year. You could do this through the league available free lessons they have online. You can do this by attending other conferences, really of your choosing. You can make this happen, and really as elected officials, making sure that we are doing our best to keep our standards up, keeping up with the current information should just be a baseline expectation we do for our constituents. Almost every career that I've had to go through continuing education, be it in the medical world, be it in education, even in retail. I've had to do continuing education. It's standard across the board. I know corporate America has this. I know public service across the world has this. Just doing our best to make sure we're doing our best, and given where we are as a council and as elected officials, I think we all definitely could benefit from having some additional training, some refreshers, especially regarding law, ethics, finance, all that kind of thing. Also, if you, for whatever reason, cannot complete the 6 hours within a year, the only thing that's going to happen is the clerk would publish on the website, hey, these members of council and elected officials completed their training. That's basically saying you did your homework for the year. Any thoughts?
Shay?
Thanks. I'm noticing in the funding section, I feel like we could clean that up a little bit. I know with our, at our county level, there was a certain justice of the peace who felt that they were doing some training, and I think spent several $1,000s that then they had to retroactively ask to be reimbursed for. And I would just want to avoid that situation. So I do feel like in the funding section, I feel like we could just clarify that language a little bit, or like what that process would look like, so that we don't inadvertently run into that situation.
I think that could be achieved. Do you think, Tracy Murphy, is that an issue, do you think?
Well, you were in charge of the budget, so you could tell that in your annual budget that, there's so much per member, and then the total, 6 members are, well, all the elected officials, so 6, 7, 8 of you would have so much to spend on travel and training or something like that to go toward this, and then, so you could obviously control that through your budgetary appropriation authority.
One thing I was concerned about is there's so much, if online's allowed, and we're already paying for people to go to municipal league twice a year, somebody could not go online and go on a trip, just, to take a course, and we're ending up spending money when they could have got the hours without us spending money.
And correct, I think what Jason said about we put a budget to it would curtail that kind of use.
Mr. Mayor.
Craig?
In theory, I don't have a problem with it. I think everybody could get a lot of training by attending planning commission meetings, getting involved with what actually happens in this community. I think that the municipal league that answers all the FOIA issues or questions, as far as like paying for training, I don't know what happens when somebody doesn't complete the training.
Would you like me to address that? So if you'll look in, on section 8, which is on page 3, there's really no consequence other than, and this is my language, not anyone else, it's sort of a public shaming. I don't know, you put on the website, these people completed their hours, these didn't, or, there's just gonna be a record put on there by the clerk about hour completion. So that's really the only consequence, would be public perception, but it says you got the duty to do it. But then there's nothing in here, and you can't go this far. You can't keep yourselves from holding office or keep someone else from running for re-election or holding office, or they would forfeit office. I mean, you don't have the power to do that. It doesn't do any of those things. It just says that in subsection C, that failure to comply shall be noted in the public compliance report maintained by the city clerk. That's it. So there's no fine, there's no legal ramifications for you. It's simply just a public transparency notice thing.
Shay?
The other thing I would maybe want to point out is that if this goes to all 3 readings, would it go to all 3 readings, then it theoretically would only give us 3 months, the busiest months.
Okay, got that for you. So this would actually only go to effect January 1st, that is to keep everybody on track, because we discussed that'd be a difficult task for some to get those hours obtained.
Hannah?
Yeah, in every position I've held, we've always had ongoing training. I think Wendy said the same thing, so I don't think it's too much to ask. 6 hours is not too great. And in terms of the financial piece, yeah, I think it needs to be a defined amount and a reimbursement based on completion. If there's language we can use legally that way, that would ensure that if someone signs up for something and they're reimbursed for it, that they actually completed it or received their certificate or whatever.
On the first 8 hours, are we still going to have, Jason used to have a thing with new people, would some of that count? Or?
but it's misused as proposal, I don't want to speak for her, I think that was the intent.
That's the intention, yes.
So-
And the other departments, we could involve, they chose to or able to.
So I have, and I will continue to, because I think it's been very helpful for people, but, whenever we have new members come on board, we usually know that in November, and between November and January 1, we try to schedule an afternoon, or however long we need, but just to bring everybody in, and they may have a lot of questions, so we'll answer those. Give them the brief rundown, talk to them about how we set the agenda, tell them about what everyone does, who everyone is, a little bit about how planning commission works, an orientation. And that would certainly count toward this. I think that was the intention, and it would. What we do say here is that session will need to be 8 hours long, so it'll be a day. And so we'll need to think about, and certainly if this doesn't involve me, we can have other people come in and provide parts of it. Maybe even there are parts of all the various subject matter issues here, so it would mandate that you do that. It would make that an 8-hour session on the front end for the orientation. Now, the continuing education, that's 6 hours, and that would be every year, and that would be other programs. Certainly, we can do programs here. We do occasionally have some training. We can work that in. Certainly, we're going to do whatever we need to do to help you all comply with the rules. But that's, I think, what the draft is intended to do, and it's really Ms. Hughes' intention. So whatever her intention is I've got to make sure it's what it says. So that's what we've done.
Anna?
One more thought. The different buckets are kind of broad and wide open, and I think this subject could fall into multiple buckets. But I think that it would really be helpful. The 2026, the use of social media by elected people is very common, and I think that, if we look at ethics and conflicts of interest, it would be very helpful to offer some type of training just on effective communication, ensuring that there's multiple examples out there, right, where we could all learn from. So I think that would be, I don't know if we can say that specifically, but it would just be helpful in general, especially for people that are elected for the first time and don't fully understand the power of social media. I think that could be really helpful.
I would point out that in section 3, the initial orientation of 8 hours, we do say ethics and conflicts of interest, but we could fit in there anywhere if it's a desire to say things like use of social media and effective communication and
Well, the First Amendment rights of citizens to comment on a post from an elected official and not blocking or hiding comments and things like that. I think
I definitely think that I know in what I presented previously, I think I chatted about social media. That's a good point because there are so many tripwires with that.
Shay?
Sorry, I also have one more thought. I really do like and appreciate that there's a little bit of a higher bar to clear for newly elected officials. Again, that they don't have to do it, but I think it lays out like a really good way to do it. I know just from my experience running, I noticed some candidates were really doing a lot of work to understand how the city works, and some other candidates didn't. And so if any of those had won, and this wasn't in place, they might have a really hard time learning how things operate around here and how to be effective in their job. So I really do like how it has a little bit of a higher bar for incoming elected officials, and then maybe if anyone's ever elected who didn't do their homework, at that point they would have the opportunity to learn what they need to learn.
I was wondering about one thing at municipal league meetings. They'll have these different sessions, and some of them are for credit, and some aren't. And some of the ones that aren't seem really relevant, so do they count, or does it have to be one that they get credit for? How does that work?
Well, they have a program of certifying elected officials, and I don't know, it's their internal program. It allows, I think they do it for council members and clerks and maybe for mayor. I'm not sure what all they do it for. But, and I don't know what all they have as a requirement. They have certain presentations they count toward their certification. They call it a certification.
Yeah.
And not all of them do, so it's something to think about in terms of how you can formulate this however you want, if you want it to count toward. If you want those classes to count, maybe not other sessions.
But the breakout session is all that you require, the QR code at the end where you scan it, and if you attend the conference, or at least the one in January, if you attended the conference, but sometimes there was another breakout session that you also wanted to attend at the same time, you had to choose, they made those available online for free for attendees, so you could go back, review those, and then add those in too, and just get your QR code certification, and had a nice little certificate you could print out if you wanted. It made it easy.
One thing I noticed, and Ms. Hughes pointed this out, and I neglected to take one out, but we have this in section 4E. We talk about, we say training may be obtained through conferences, seminars, workshops, webinars, courses, or other educational programs sponsored by. And then we say the municipal league, state agencies, accredited educational institutions, professional organizations, or other providers approved by the mayor, and that is what was intended. But I noticed up in section 4C, I accidentally left in, I need to make a correction to that because we say other providers approved by the mayor or city council, so.
And the reason why we were editing out the city council portion of it is that it would require resolution by city council, and that's could be a little timely, and so with this mayor's approval, it'd be easy to do. I know that last year, I think the mayor, Shay, myself, attended stormwater evening event where we learned about stormwater in the area and watersheds and all that information. That would have been an opportunity to get an hour and things like that would definitely count.
Anybody else? Larry?
I think with all positions, regardless of where you are in the pecking order, whether you're a daily laborer or whether you're a boss, there's usually standards or requirements for achieving a certain level of education related to what you're doing. And so this is, I think in principle, I would fully agree with this. My question would be as to how we regulate the cost, because there are things out there that we can get that are pretty expensive. So would we want to choose a certain dollar amount per council person or per elected official to make it fair, so that someone couldn't go and sign up to a course that costs $2,000 because that's the running order of it, but it has to be approved by the mayor, I'm assuming. But it might warrant it, but that would be half of our budget perhaps.
I'm kind of considering that we do budget out for attendance at the municipal league conferences. And so if we could budget maybe a similar amount, because attending one conference could potentially knock out your entire requirement for the year. And so if you wanted on your own additionally to attend conferences that went above that cost funds, you might not get reimbursed for those. It might be for the greater good, taking one for the team there for your own education. But I think if we set something aside, like we do, already budget for the conferences, that could be a good measure and a good standard. Understanding that not everyone can attend those because they have other obligations, but that could be maybe the standard we follow if that was agreeable with the council. It's already budgeted.
Okay, well, I think that was good discussion. Let's move on to the next one. Resolution authorizing the city to initiate legal proceedings against Bella Vista Village Property Owners Association, Inc. to facilitate condemnation of possession of real property for purposes of completing the public safety radio tower project, and further authorizing settlement in the total amount of $67,000. Is this Chief?
You're the technical side, and I'll talk about the legal side.
Sure. So everybody is aware and knows the bond that passed last year. I referenced the tower project was one of those, replacing the public safety, the 3 towers we have, taken them off the water towers. This is part of that project, and so 2 of the locations in the city already owns the property. One is going to be Station 3, so that's a good place for a tower. And we've done a study with Smith Two-Way to make sure we got coverage in the towers in the proper places. The second location, we're very happy to find out here at the Public Safety Complex on the streets department property, just on the back side of the property. There's a lot of vacant land back there, and a tower location was located there as well, so we already own that property, so we thought we may have to go out and purchase 2 pieces of property, which we don't now. So that'll be second tower, okay, on this property here that the streets department is on, the public safety complex is on. The third piece of property is up by Trafalgar and Leland Drive, and it's close to the existing water tower. The POA owns that property. We've been working with the POA, and they are amicable to us doing this, and so this I would consider as a non-hostile action, but we need to take this legal action in order to acquire the property.
So I can get a little more into that. So we've had conversations with the POA. I've talked to Doug McCash, their attorney. We got an appraisal on the property that we need to have for the project. The appraised value is $67,000. So as we would with any private party, we went to them and said, we're going to have this for our project. It's a public project. It's a necessity. We'll pay appraised value. They were agreeable to that. As with most private parties, we could work out a sale arrangement, give them a check, they would sign a deed, and the project is done. They don't have the legal authority to just grant a deed to their property because they have membership voting requirements, and their board does not have the authority legally to just agree to this and authorize Mr. Judson to sign off on this. So what they said is that their board is agreeable to accepting $67,000 in settlement of an eminent domain case. So basically what we've got to do is we've got to use the court structure and the eminent domain taking procedure so that we can go to court. And then the idea would be we'll immediately have a settlement in hand and file that at the same time. They'll be paying $67,000 and the matter will be immediately resolved upon filing. So that's why we've got to go through this condemnation and initiating the legal proceedings. But we've communicated with them, and they've indicated they're agreeable to accepting $67,000 and for us to proceed in this manner. My understanding is they've already, Doug Cash has already spoken to his board, and they're on board with it. And so this is our first meeting to be able to bring it to you.
Travis?
A couple questions. What all does that price come with? Does it come, how big is the property? Is the tower coming with it? And then will it still be a POA property and the city would be required to pay the monthly dues on the POA?
My understanding is we'll own the property. I don't have the exact dimensions of the property, but it's what we need for this tower to meet fall requirements in that. Taylor remembers.
We have to build the tower, so there's no.
And we have to build the tower, so this does not include the tower, okay, but this is just obtaining the property. I believe we're ahead of the game because, like I said, we thought we'd have to do this 2 times. We'd have to acquire 2 pieces of property, and we only have to acquire 1 now. And so we've already worked with our planning department to make sure that this property met all the requirements that we're going to need for this tower. This 199-foot tower, it's a standalone tower, no guy wires, and so it does meet all the requirements. We've been working with them for quite a while for this, and so my understanding is once we acquire this property, we'll be ready to move forward with building the towers.
There's a picture. There's a picture of the
I think I included that one.
lot in the packet. It's
Yeah,
It's right off the Trafalgar.
Just by looking at it.
Yes.
To me, it looks like maybe a quarter acre.
There you go.
It just seems to me, I'm not.
Little over acre.
It is okay. And then there's no POA dues associated with it afterwards. I mean, because it's a.
We're condemning their interest, so we would have they would no longer have any interest in it.
Larry?
This is just south of Lancashire, right, where the tower is that right?
It's by the existing tower.
Just a little, it's a little
Yes,
south of
it's on,
Lancashire.
it's on Trafalgar,
Yeah,
Trafalgar and Leland.
north of the station, what, 3, fire station 3?
No, that's, the fire station 3 is where the other towers are going to go. This is on the west side. I'm sorry, this is on the east side, east of Lancashire, east of 71.
Yeah, Trafalgar's on the east side. Right.
So you go on Trafalgar, you pass the post office and
Which
keep
fire
going.
station is that, Commonwealth and Trafalgar? Is that 2 or 3, 5?
Oh, number 2 is at Commonwealth in Trafalgar. Yeah.
Okay, so this is north of station 2 then?
No, it's going to be west of station 2.
It's on the other end of Trafalgar, on the 3-4 Lincolnshire. Off of Lincolnshire, Trafalgar, Lincolnshire. is what it's at.
It, it, it's going to be west of station 2.
It's on the other end of Trafalgar, on the 3-4 Lincolnshire. Off of Lincolnshire, Trafalgar, Lincolnshire. 3-4 Lincolnshire.
Yeah,
On the L section.
just south of 340, right?
Yes.
On Trafalgar?
Sure.
Because the POA is doing another tower to replace that one that's in the works.
Yes, that's correct.
It's been approved. I don't know where it is relative to this site. But the question would be is if that in fact is true, would that create any interference to your analysis by Smith Radio?
I don't believe so, no.
It's going to be a lot bigger than what this one is, I call it.
But my understanding is Smith Two-Way has done all of, I don't know where the other towers are going to go, if you're asking me that.
It's going to go near this location here.
There's a lot of other towers in the city near our towers. We've never had interference before with that. I don't think that would be a problem.
So where these towers are just under 200 feet?
Pardon?
These towers are just under 200 feet. They're 199, 198 feet tall. So the current water tower at that area right now is 115 feet tall. They are putting in a new tower.
We're going to be above that.
We're going to be well above that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
80,
So
80,
is the new
80
tower going in there, how tall is that going to be?
Do what?
The new tower that they're putting?
I'm not for sure on the new tower, but we did factor that in on the analysis. But then where they're putting the tower out, it's not going to affect that transmission.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you.
I'll just stay here. I got you.
Oh, okay. Authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Superior Automotive Group of Siloam Springs pursuant to a state procurement contract for the purchase of 5 Dodge Durango AWD pursuit vehicles with equipment outfits and 2 2026 Chevrolet Silverado pickups with equipment outfits in a total amount not to exceed $386,195.71 for use by the police department.
Yes, so this will be the remainder of our fleet this year for the cars that we have approved in the 2026 budget. These will be purchased with the bond funds that were approved in November of last year. There'll be 5 Durangos, 4 for patrol, 1 for admin, and the 2 trucks, one will be for evidence tech. It'll have some extra shell in the back and storage space for gathering evidence and processing scenes. And then the other truck is going to be an admin vehicle for an admin officer that we have that works with our Axon cameras and does a lot of other transport. And so we figured it best for them to have a pickup truck to do that.
Wendy?
Thanks, John. So with the vehicles, I have a few questions, so sorry. What is the life expectancy of these vehicles?
So routinely we run these vehicles, the patrol vehicles, they go into the patrol fleet. We try to run our vehicles about 120,000 miles. When I first got here, we were doing 100,000 miles, and we found that with our maintenance shop and the good work they do and the quality of vehicles that the Durangos are, and then the Tahoes, when we have the Tahoes, that we're routinely able to run them to 120,000 miles. So we try to replace the patrol vehicles prior to 120,000 miles because obviously they're emergency response vehicles. We need them to always operate down on us. Some of the admin vehicles will run a little longer because they're admin vehicles. So, we at least run those 120,000 miles, sometimes more, depending on working with our streets department and the maintenance folks. If they're telling us, they're still good vehicles, they're not costing us more to maintain, then we'll just keep them in the fleet as long as we can. And then a lot of these vehicles, when we turn them out, even out of the fleet from patrol vehicles, we'll turn them into our travel vehicles or something like that, into our additional vehicles, just to keep them in the fleet for a while if they're still decent vehicles.
About how many years are we getting out of the vehicle?
It just, again, it depends on how many miles we put on them. Routinely, a patrol vehicle, probably 3, 4, 5 years. It just depends. Some vehicles are driven more than others, just depending on who's driving them and the duties they're doing. We try to rotate vehicles if we have somebody who tends to drive a lot more, because maybe an officer wants to do more traffic and they're out more, maybe another officer does other things that don't. We try to switch the vehicles around. So year-wise, usually within 5 years, we're rotating the vehicle out.
And then I think one final question, just for confirmation. So this is being paid by bond funds, And the bond, the earliest we can pay that off is in 7.5 years, is that correct?
The earliest?
That's what they estimated.
Okay.
If the city tax didn't go up, it would be 7.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're thinking it'll be faster than that, but. Anybody else? Okay, I think we're all set. Oh, you're still
Got one more.
here. Resolution amending the 2026 city budget to appropriate $120,000 in development impact fee revenue related to public safety building additions.
Okay. So this one is reference a sidewalk out front. So let me go back in time a little bit. So the council passed a resolution, I don't remember the exact year, I know it was prior to it was prior to when we built this existing building that required, when developments met a certain standard, required them to build a sidewalk out front, a public access sidewalk. When we built this building, we didn't do that. Honestly, it wasn't ever brought to my attention that it was a requirement. I believe probably, and I'd have to check, but I believe the old mayor with the streets department, I'm sorry, the CDS, the superintendent at the time, waived that requirement, which they can legally do. And so we did not do it. Now, when we were doing some additional building in the back of the streets department, we have an operations building that the police department owns. We're doing some additional expansion out there. And when we started doing that, it triggered that requirement again, it was brought to our attention. And so now we're going back and we're building a public access sidewalk, okay, for the police department from the south end of the property all the way up in front of the streets department to the north end of the property. It'll butt up against basically the property that the VA is being built on now. And I assume they're gonna have to build a sidewalk as well, I would imagine. And so, but that's what this requirement is. And so we've been working with CEI, and it is somewhat expensive to build a simple sidewalk. But that's requirements. We're trying to go back and fulfill that requirement, and we plan on doing this within that years.
Larry?
My question is our plan still here? Still here?
Yes.
She's back there.
Yes, she is.
My question for you is the site plan for the corner improvements include a sidewalk connection?
For the VA clinic?
Yes.
Yes.
So their whole frontage along Fort
270.
Hills and along Rogers will have sidewalk?
Correct.
So when this is all said and done, when we do this sidewalk, and they do their sidewalk in the south end of our property up to Roger Road, and then along the frontage of Roger Road and the VA property.
There's no waiver on that sidewalk for the VA?
They were not granted one now.
What?
She said they were not granted one.
Okay, they asked for one probably. Did they?
We talked about it, but it was advised not to request it because the planning commission does not tend to approve those waivers.
Okay, so they're gonna have a sidewalk, and now we're gonna have a sidewalk across our two properties here.
That's if it's approved, yes.
So,
Travis?
Or required it.
Could we not waive that requirement for both properties? It seems to me that's not good use of our funds because I have heard citizens complaining about the lack of sidewalks, but never over here where there's like no residential areas and people would have to be like, I guess, walking from Hiawassee or, a long ways from here. So could we not just waive it and save several $100,000 for both entities?
So, I mean, I can waive it, you could waive it, I mean, it would make my life easier.
Council cannot waive
Council
that.
cannot waive.
Sorry, council, okay.
Only the planning commission can waive that.
Well, there you go.
And the city tried to get a waiver of it and it was denied.
Wendy?
So just for a reminder for myself, with impact fees, we have 7 years after collection to utilize those, is that correct?
Yes.
And then utilizing the $120,000, what would your bucket of money for impact fees be left at, do you know? Or does
I
anybody
don't
know?
have a clue, that's.
So-
I think I thought the police had about 300,000.
Yeah, we have enough impact fees in there, I couldn't tell you the exact amount remaining
Perfect.
impact fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
When this building was built, the sidewalk should have been built because there was no waiver, it just didn't happen.
Travis?
So if they're gonna walk to one of these two locations, they're gonna spend the majority of their walk on the road without a shoulder or a sidewalk, and then they're gonna get real close to their destination and then have a sidewalk. It just seems like a waste of money to me. That's all I'm saying.
Well, one of the things that's been happening in Bella Vista is, everybody builds a building and says, oh, we don't want to put in a sidewalk, there's no sidewalk over here next to us. And then the next guy says, oh, I don't want to put in a sidewalk, there's no sidewalk over here. So in the long run, you have a city with no sidewalks, that's the problem. And it's really, in my opinion, it's really bad to be the city and be telling everybody else you gotta put in a sidewalk and then you're not doing it. It's, you know what I mean? It's just, Wendy?
Well, the residential is growing with the opening soon of the apartment complexes, the cottages, other kinds of, a more walkable, shoppable area, and so giving people access to the police department, outside their vehicle, a little safer, sounds like a pretty good one for me.
The apartment complex is also building a sidewalk.
Perfect. Love that.
So they'll walk quite a way now.
Yeah, exactly.
Incremental development, it's pretty standard.
Anybody else? Larry?
A comment about variability. You need to drive by the street in Centerton that goes by the high school, going from 72 going south. If you want to see an adjustment of thinking over time, you can see that by how the subdivisions are constructed next to the roadway. Some are wider with curb and gutter, some are not, are wider only by a little bit. Some have sidewalk and a curb and gutter. It's a variety of scenarios because their code changes as time went on. And so each of those subdivisions were affected differently. So we will have that in Bella Vista as well, in vacant areas where we get developed.
Shay?
I think just for some whimsy, we could do hopscotch with a cop in the future once these sidewalks are realized.
Very true.
It's just, that's what it's.
That's a great suggestion, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can have that for free.
I'm disappointed that we didn't catch it when we had the bond issue money from the first bond.
Sure.
I mean, it makes me really, because
I mean, I work
taking
with,
120,000 out of our fund makes you short in things that really are growth related that affect the police department.
This is attributable to growth, so it's very important that what the statute allows you is, it allows you to recoup expenses that were related to growth. So this is a recoupment of certain expenses which were in fact related to growth. So it could have been spent in the first instance, you're correct. They can also be spent on recoupment, but it's all related to growth.
Greg?
Okay.
Well, I do have a question, and this total aside from your stuff. I just do have a quick question for Taylor. When you mention like the apartment complex or whatever that's being built, when subdivisions come through, and I know that sidewalks typically aren't part of that equation, are they? Are there fees in lieu of sidewalks being built with?
Our new code does have a fee in lieu. The Domino's actually right by City Hall, with that option, they got a waiver and they will be paying a fee in lieu of.
Okay.
So they'll be giving the city an amount to put in sidewalks.
I wasn't sure if that was part of the existing code.
The new code.
Yeah,
Yep.
the new code. I just wanted to confirm. Okay, I was just curious. Thanks.
Okay, I think we discussed that. Thank you very much for the presentation. Next one is a discussion item, short-term rentals and density within Bella Vista, and that's Council Member Hughes.
Yeah, thank you so much. So when we were talking about potentially expanding the STR cap from 600 to 697, I was getting a lot of feedback from residents in various ways regarding density. That they're maybe fine with the cap being raised, but could we do something to not protect, but protect essentially the higher populated STR areas, which typically they're around lakes, golf courses, other entertainment areas. And so I just kind of want to see what y'all thought about it. I know that cities around us have implemented this. The city of Fayetteville in December passed an ordinance that would require, they call them type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is their owner-occupied, type 2 is their non-owner-occupied, and type 2 rentals would, if you're existing, you'd be grandfathered in, but new permits would not be issued if there's another STR within 100 feet, in a straight line around another STR, to kind of give a little buffer and a little space, just to help it out, so people wouldn't be sandwiched between STRs, which can make it harder to sell your home in some instances. The city of Joplin, I believe, has a 200-foot radius, and then other cities in the other states have similar things. Just kind of want to get some feedback, what you guys thought. I know I can see both sides of it. I can understand the density part, I can understand property owner rights. It goes back and forth. I kind of wanted some feedback from everybody.
How do they do that? Is it 100 feet from the property line?
I believe so.
Yes.
Kind of radius.
Craig?
I'll be brief. I guess my question for Jason, what is in a legal sense, what is the definition of a hotel motel, and what's the difference between an STR?
Well, that's more of a Taylor question because she interprets the zoning code. We've got definitions for those things.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said that's really a question for Taylor because she's the zoning administrator and we have definitions for those words, and I'm sure she's pulling it up right now that are in the code. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but we've worked on that, so maybe we get back with you with an official definition on that.
Okay. And then,
I did, since I'm with the opportunity, in your permission, earlier today I did email you a couple of pages of some information on this and some legal considerations. I want to make sure you have that.
Yeah, I read through
point
it.
that out to you.
well, that's the other side of that, and I know this is for Taylor, because I know once you get into the retail aspect in neighborhoods, technically we can't have retail in neighborhoods. I mean, a mom and pop grocery store couldn't just set up shop in a neighborhood or.
That's zoning.
Yeah, that's zoning, yeah, exactly. And that's the issue that I have. I do have questions, Taylor, I'm sorry. Because for me, it's all grounded in what the actual zoning is. Because without, and I'm getting way off on a tangent, and I won't go long. But if you have a retail, is that defined as a retail-ish something?
No, like as a short-term rental or lodging or hotel?
Yeah.
No, those are two different land uses. They're both in the commercial land use definitions section, but they are two different definitions.
Okay.
Retail is the sale of items, goods, services, things like that. Lodging is typically a building that is rented for temporary occupancy, and it lists different types that it includes with or without meals. It excludes certain things such as trailer courts, camping, hospitals, asylums, things like that. Then when you look at the short-term rental definition, it explicitly is looking at a residential unit that is used for temporary occupancy of less than 30 days.
Does it delineate between owner-occupied or like?
The zoning code does not, but the short-term rental ordinance does.
Okay.
So that's part of the point of the information that I sent, and that is, if you're going to look at density, this is going to now be a zoning issue. We have not approached STR regulation to date as a zoning issue or as a business regulation and a nuisance control sort of situation. But in order to get into density, you're going to have to start incorporating this into your zoning code.
Okay, and this is my last question. So, as a council member, say I own STRs, and this is a legal question. So, if I'm sitting here voting on something that enriches me, I mean, the difference between like, if I work for a company that built roads, and we're talking about developing roads, my company was invested in that transaction, I'd have to recuse myself. It would be better if I recused myself.
Whenever you have a direct, when you can directly benefit, that's an ethical situation where you need to stand back and recuse. Anything that you adopt as a city regulation, you all live in the city, so it obviously could have some effect on you because you live here. Those might be indirect. But, examples would be totally just making up something. If one of you owned a piece of property and you needed it rezoned, and you certainly can own property, and you just like anyone else could go through a rezoning process, which would end up in front of the city. Since that's your property and you would directly benefit from that, that would be a vote that you would not need to participate in. Just generally owning a business and then looking at a business regulation, is that direct? Most likely not, but I can't discount every potential situation. It's certainly, anytime any of you vote and you think you might have an issue, it's always wise to look into it. But it really requires a direct benefit, would be the key indicator.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about increasing the density and affording opportunities, and then you have, like myself, I go out and I'm like, okay, so we bumped it. I'm gonna go buy a house, I'm gonna flip it around, and I'm gonna rent it. I'm enriching myself.
And if you were voting on something and that would have a direct impact on you, then that would be a problem.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Larry?
Disconcerting thought that I heard this morning at a meeting was, and I don't know how accurate it was or what the relative relationship in Bella Vista was, but someone stated that they lived on one of the smaller lakes on the east side and that 4 out of the 12 lots were STRs. Now, I don't know if there's 4 lots adjacent to them and there are others around where there's a road come in or some separation. I don't know what that is, but if there are only 12 lots on that particular small lake, having 4 of them STRs is going to create some challenges somewhere along the line.
Travis?
I feel like Councilmember Concho was talking about me. And
No, I was not.
I want to be transparent that I speak with Mr. Kelly before any STR agenda items happen, consistently do that. And I was going to wait until we actually vote on this to tell you all, but I do plan on withholding my vote or recusing myself because, in my opinion, my family business could benefit either way, because if I vote no to increase the cap, then I reduce competition for mine. And if I vote yes to increase the cap, then I can expand my business. So I fully want to recuse myself from the vote, but I do want to have some meaningful input on the topic. And here's my input. If you allow...
I'm sorry, I know there's a debatable issue where a council member discussed items and then in separate meetings.
This is a work session.
I said what you get in trouble, yeah.
I'm just being honest and
Oh,
transparent.
there was a thing of debatable where, yeah, I'll tell you later.
Like telling me what.
It's a work session, so there's really,
Okay.
other than I never encourage you to debate an issue at work session, just get information.
Yeah.
But there's no voting and no rules and how you do it.
Well, I do want to contribute to the conversation, since all these questions we're asking. I have a little bit of a different perspective than most of you. If you allow somebody to sell their short-term rental and transfer the permit with it, you're going to significantly reduce the amount of permits that people want to get. And so I've mentioned it several times, and people have given pushback and given multiple reasons, but that would eliminate the need, the community members that are into investing in properties this way. It would reduce the need by that. So I really would still highly encourage people to consider that. And then it would reduce a lot of the congestion and a lot of the density stuff. I feel like the density zoning regulations is a bad idea because you punish someone based on location instead of punishing someone if they consistently have bad guests or if they're disruptive to the neighborhood. So let's just like take care of those people that are disruptive and causing scenes. Maybe hold their permit, in hostage or what, lack of better terms, but revoke their permit. Maybe if they consistently have bad guests in their point of contact. If you live in California, if you live in Florida and you have a short-term rental here, you're required to have a point of contact that can get to the house within like 30 minutes or something like that.
Ours is within 50 miles.
Within 50 miles, okay. So I really think we could do some legislative changes that wouldn't further restrict, but would absolutely help the short-term rental situation. So just something that I wanted you all to consider.
Just a clarification, I don't know about others, I didn't follow your first point. Do you think SDR licenses should be transferable or not?
Yes, I think they should. I think it would reduce the desire, the need. It would reduce the demand if we were able to do that.
So if I had an SDR and I had a license and then I sell my house, the new person could get the license with the house?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then you would reduce the demand for SDRs.
Right.
And I'll be brief. Travis, that was not directed towards you. That was directed towards the House bill that's coming up. I was just getting clarification for myself. That's why I used myself. I should have prefaced it that I had no problem with you at all. I just wanted to let you know that is not any part of who I am. If I had something to say to you, I'd say so.
So I need to add, if we're talking about the obligations of state legislators, then they have their own set of rules and that they have to comply with, as well as ethical obligations that are shared by all the elected officials in Arkansas. But so it's not necessarily identical for a council member as it is for a member of the House.
I understand. I was just curious what I was thinking about it.
Shay?
I just wanted to contribute on, if we were to move forward with this, I think we could get creative. Obviously, Bella Vista has really interesting topography and lot sizes, and so I think rather than just like one rule about footage or something like that, I think we could actually do like a combination, and it could be the greater of either the same street segment, like cul-de-sac, or dead and loop area, or a 500-foot radius, whichever is greatest. And I would recommend that we kind of start thinking in those terms rather than just one term. I know that does kind of make things more complicated, but I do think it would also avoid problems. But just wanted to suggest that for whoever's thinking about this.
Wendy?
So I do see what you're saying. I did speak to staff about this a little bit, and having a firm, like, this is the radius, would be a more forcible way to actually do this, correct?
Hard numbers are easier to enforce than percentages codified.
Okay.
So instead of saying 3% of a street, a hard number would be easier for enforcement day to day. Or 200-foot radius, whatever it is, whatever the separation requirement.
So Jason, you're saying if we did like 100 feet, 200 feet, whatever, that would be a zoning?
Yes, I mean, any sort of density requirement is going to be zoning. So keep in mind that, as I said previously, you could adopt a resolution and have the planning commission study that and present a recommendation to you and then come back to you. But it would have to go through that public hearing process and all of that. Now, certainly you can have some recommendations you want to give to the planning commission about what you want to do, what you want to see, and maybe even some draft language or something like that. But 300 feet, I mean, how wide is a typical lot, Taylor, in Bella Vista?
50 to 100 feet.
100? So you're talking about every other house could still be one if you said it, that would probably prevent it. So that gets into the policy of it. So, and I don't want to just read it, but I did send you a couple of pages earlier today that talks about some of this, what you need to be thinking about, because you got to have reasons to do it. You got to be addressing something. You need to, you got to figure out, you got permits that are out there now that might be too close. And so are those going to be grandfathered? How are we going to handle that? There are a lot of questions. I've got some of that written down there for future thought. But, and I just say that because, as we say here tonight, we may not even think of everything we need to be thinking about.
should be grandfathered, but that's really up to the council. But I think that would create quite a firestorm if you, oh, well, you don't have an STR anymore, buddy.
And this bears stating because we had the state issue come up, and we know this, I think the mayor mentioned it, but there's a strong headwind against cities regulating anything, but particularly this issue, it has been the last 2 or 3 sessions. So it might be that if we start doing what we can lawfully do now, we might find the state's going to take that authority away from us. We really need to be careful about that because we are subject to scrutiny at the state level when we do.
Okay, that was a good discussion, and unless anybody has anything else, I think we've run through the agenda. Okay, thank you very much. We're adjourned.